What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy channel. We got another rookie mock for you. So we're going deep on this one. We're doing a 2024 rookie mock, 4 rounds on this one with landing spots. So I went over a recent 2024 mock draft from PFN. Ian Cummings did that one, and he went 7 rounds deep. So we got our patrons together, said, let's mock it up. And we said, okay, where are we going to draft these guys based on the landing spots? Now, also in this video, we're going over pick value. So what's the 104 getting valued at, right? What is the 107 getting valued at? Who is there? And the second round pick value, player spotlights, advanced stats from PFF. We got it all on this one. So let's dive in. 101 with Caleb Williams. Now, 12-team Superflex, tight end premium is always the format that we kind of use for these mocks. As right now, we will get some one quarterbacks. But right now, Caleb Williams is the 101. Now, if he goes to the Bears, they moved on from Fields in this scenario. They traded him in the mock draft. I mean, you have to kind of consider that being, the 101 pretty locked in. Now, I've had some questions about Marvin Harrison Jr. being at 101. That always comes down to team dependency, right? If you're rebuilding, always take the insulated value with the quarterback. And I think especially with Caleb, right? With prospects like that, people are going to believe in them and buy into them for at least 2 or 3 years. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great prospect. Don't get me wrong. And that's where he goes. He goes at 1-2 to the Cardinals. You have to love this landing spot for Marvin Harrison Jr. because he's the wide receiver 1. He's with Kyler Murray. I think this is an underrated offense. This is where you want him to go. As opposed to New England. You don't want him to go to New England, right? I think that they'll be better, right? I think that Marvin Harrison Jr., if he was in New England, but the problem is who's throwing in the ball. And I think also just there's a lot of unknown certainties about New England. With Arizona, he's going to get volume. He's going to get targets. He's going to earn them. He's going to be there. And if he goes to Arizona, I'm pretty sure he's locked in at the 102. Drake May, this is an interesting one. So what are the Commanders going to do? It seems like they're locking in on Ben Johnson as their head coach. I think that if he is and they select Drake May, I think that you'd have to look at that and feeling very comfortable with their offensive system. And that's where he's going to go, right? There's a lot of nuance about May. I think there's some people that don't like May. I don't know. They like Jaden Daniels better for fantasy. It's going to be an interesting discussion. But for me, it comes down to where do they land offensively? Like, what's the scheme going to look like? How are they going to elevate them? We saw Bryce Young just get decimated last year because Frank Reich was terrible, right? If Ben Johnson is in Washington, we believe in that system, believe in those weapons. You have to imagine Drake goes 103. 104, we got Malik Neighbors going to the Giants to be their wide receiver 1. Giants kind of reloading this. We're going to talk about a back-end quarterback that they take in the first round. A lot of fun there. So Malik Neighbors goes there. Extremely talented guy. You're really between, Malik, Bowers, and Jaden Daniels at that 104 mark right now, based on consensus mocks, but Malik is in there. 105, we got Jaden Daniels going to the Patriots. So, how would we feel about that landing spot? I do think that you're going to see a ton of usage from him. I think that he'd start day 1. I think he could come in there. I think his rushing upside is there, but they got to get some pieces, right? Offensive pieces. They'd have to attack that offensive pieces in the either in free agency. I know there's been some talk about them getting some wide receivers in free agency, but also in this draft. So that's where you have to look at where Jaden Daniels is at. 106, Brock Bowers of the Colts. I thought this was a spicy landing spot out there with Anthony Richardson and, possibly Michael Pittman, depending on what's going on with his free agency. Downs, even Alec Pierce truthers. I know you're out there. Like guys like that, Jonathan Taylor, have a lot of fun there. Evan Hull, sneaky running back ad maybe. And with Bowers there, be fun in this offense. And I do think that Anthony Richardson could elevate his play too. I think he would do wonders for Anthony Richardson. We could see Anthony Richardson's value get shot through the roof as well. 107, Roma Dunze going to the Bears to pair up with Caleb. I think that's a fun, matchup, matching there. And, you're thinking of DJ Moore being there. I think Rome, his interesting profile. 107 is pretty much where people feel comfortable with him. I do think that in some cases, 108, 109, you're going to see some other wide receivers go, maybe Franklin Worthy, some of these other guys, Brian Thomas. But I think pairing him with Caleb is too good to pass up there at the 107. 108, we got Troy Franklin, and they went ham in this draft. The Colts really went after. They got Brock Bowers. Then they're going to go ahead and get Troy Franklin in the second round. I think that's a fun offense. Now, can Anthony Richardson elevate all those pieces? That's something to be told. But I do like Troy Franklin here. I think he's one of my guys. I think he's valuable there. 109, we got JJ slipping in here in the first. He gets drafted top 10 to the Falcons. Put him around those pieces in that offense with the new offensive coordinator coming over from the Rams. I think it's a lot of fun. And I do think that the Falcons could maybe go get a veteran and then have JJ kind of back up. And that's fun too. I think back into the first, he's going to hold that value if he doesn't play. He has those pieces around them. I think this is the right pick there. 110, Jalen Polk being the wide receiver one for the Panthers. I think Polk is getting slept on. And a lot of rookie mocks that I've seen on Sleeper, he's going like third rounds. You guys need to know who Jalen Polk is. Jalen Polk was one of the best Washington wide receivers, even over Rome Odunze at times. I think he's talented. He finds himself as a wide receiver one. I think the back end of the first is incredible value. Even now, he's going to the third or fourth round. If you're in some rookie mocks now, I've seen some actually happen or some startup drafts, go target Jalen Polk. Bo Nix going at 111. A lot of debates going to be having with Bo Nix, but he comes in, he gets drafted here in the first round of the New York Giants. They traded back into the first round at 32nd pick. So he's going to go 111. I think he's a fun landing spot with the ball out there in New York. I think with those weapons, everything they got. I know Daniel Jones coming off the injury. It's fun. I think this is a fun piece, but you have to have some cojones to draft Bo Nix in the end of the first based on that, because I think there's a lot of unknowns with this, especially with people still on the board. I think Keon Coleman going to the Chiefs. I think Keon is, you either love him or hate him. He's either Quentin Johnson, poor man's version, gold, all kinds of different narratives getting thrown out there. But I think the favorite part about this, he goes to the Chiefs. So people who are dynasty managers are sweating because they're like, oh, we want a piece of that Chiefs offense, baby. Oh, we don't like Keon Coleman's profile. So it's one of those, where do you believe, where's the value at? Where do you look at kind of that? Are you trusting yourself in your evaluation, or is Mahomes going to pull you in like he's done with Sky Moore and all these other guys? Now, let's talk about what the picks are being valued at, just to kind of give you an idea. 107 for 108 and 211. I think to move down from that tier, I think the 107 tier, the Rome Odunze tier, is a real tier. I would need something more than 211. I would need an early second in that instance. Then you have Richardson, 108, 204, 30 for Lamar and 212. I'm smashing Anthony Richardson's side on that. I think Richardson is a buy. I have a video coming out talking about Anthony Richardson tomorrow. But overall, I think you're looking at Anthony Richardson, I like Lamar, but if I can get that kind of capital back plus a first, I'm all aboard that train. Deshaun, Ferguson, 201 for Aaron Rodgers and a 104. If you can get Watson off your roster for a top 5 pick, I think you have to do that, because Watson is just toxic. No one wants him, right? And whether that's, you or not, you have to look at it from a dynasty value perspective. It's hard to move off of Watson. Love for the 108. That's kind of where he's getting valued at. Lawrence for the 103. I mean, I've seen that multiple times now. So I think if you think that's a buy or sell, it really depends on what you think of Lawrence there. Breece Hall, 303 for Jordan Addison, the 108 and 408. I like it for both sides, but if you need a running back one, go get Hall for that price, right? Outside that 107 tier, you could still add a running back or a wide receiver in this deep class in the second or third if you held on to those picks. McBride, 306 for Pittman at 209 and tight end premium. I like both sides. I think that's 50-50 fair there. On the other side is CJ, K-Dot, and Rashee Rice for Tua, DK, and the 103. I think the 103 is really I think it's a 50-50 trade. I like CJ, but if Tua can just kind of solidify himself, as that QB 11-12, you get a 103 piece and DK coming back. I think it's fun. I think CJ still... I think it's 50-50, but I do like CJ just because of his upside at that position. Now, we're going in the second round now. We got Brian Thomas Jr. going to the Jets. Jonathan Brooks going to Houston. I did see some David Wilsley. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you guys should. He's a running back guru. He kind of broke down his injury. He broke down Jonathan Brooks' injury and said, hey, he might be able to come back and produce next year, just looking at timelines of other running backs. That's an interesting thought, because I think most people think Jonathan Brooks with the ACL or everything's going on might not produce, but I think he can. And I think that's something to kind of, okay, if he can produce, I'm excited about that, the prospects of that, right? Now, Xavier Worthy going to 203, Michael Penix Jr. going to the Raiders in the second round, Xavier Leggett going to Houston, and then Trey Benson going to the Vikings. And first, we think of running backs, Trey Benson getting that volume in Minnesota, and you think he can be that running back one if they bring back Kirk Cousins and look what Dalvin Cook's been able to do, Alexander Madison at certain times, Chandler, those guys. That's a fun spot. I think Trey Benson in Minnesota would be my favorite spot for him. Now, let's do a player spotlight. Let's look at one guy from this kind of the 206, the 20 to 206. Michael Penix Jr. is an interesting one going to the Raiders, right? PFF offensive grade has been good. 91.0, 7% big time throw percentage, 2% turnover worthy play. Offensive grade under pressure is not bad. Now, Washington, for context, I know a lot of people don't watch college football, had one of the best offensive lines in college football last year. So offensive grade under pressure, he didn't face very much pressures. So that's something to note too. I do think he got the ball out quick. Washington's offense does mirror NFL concepts, so that's something to note. But just for context purposes, right? I like to give you guys context. I'm not throwing out hot takes, just to kind of give you the whole picture of these guys. Now, but being in in Las Vegas, not bad spot for him, right? If you're looking at like, hey, if I'm gonna take a shot on someone in the second round, he might be able to start right away. Maybe, right? He's gonna compete. They have the weapons. Hey, I like him with Devontae Adams. I like that spot for him, honestly. Now, this is just to show you kind of where he throws through the numbers. It's a great chart. He does really exceptionally well between the numbers outside right. Now, remember, he's a left-handed thrower, so it's a little bit of a different concept when you're looking at where he tries to get the ball to, but very efficient, right? 10 to 20 plus yards, really good at those spots, especially between the numbers. You know, I think their offense dictated that, but just to kind of give you a concept of what kind of passer he is. Now, the rest of the second round, we got A.D. Mitchell, Devontae Walker, the Bills, fun spot there. Jalen Wright, Tennessee running back, is a guy you guys need to know. Going to the Bengals, which again is a fun spot in my opinion. That's one of those spots where he could be the running back 1/2 with Chase Brown if they move on from Mixon. Braylon Allen going to the Tampa Bay. Braylon Allen truthers aren't going to like that. Malachi Corley going to the Dolphins. Bucky Irving going to the Colts. Again, not great spots for some of these guys. I think the Corley one makes a little bit of sense for Miami because that's kind of the profile of wide receiver that they like. Now, the guy I want to point out, Jalen Wright, you know, we're looking at him from Tennessee. It's going to be interesting to see kind of, you know, as the process goes, he's very explosive. 35 explosive runs, elusive rating 132.2, missed tackles force 43, only had 137 attempts this last year because he split time with Jabari Small, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns, average 7 yards per carry. He's going to be fun because I do think when he comes in, if he finds himself in a spot that you really like, I think he's going to vault up draft boards. His second round would not shock me in those drafts if he goes day 2. And I think that's the fun thing about Wright. I do think he has a receiving profile that he hasn't been able to utilize, right? I think that he can be a receiver out of the backfield. But someone to note, someone to kind of just get your eyes on and understand that they could have some value there. Now, as far as seconds go right now, Bryce Young for Chase Brown, Downs. 203, 212. Rashad White for Tyjae Spears in the 207. 206 for Kendre Miller. So a lot of those running backs, the Spears, the Millers, going for that second round right now, right? So it's really, do you want to re-roll the second, get someone running back in this class, or are you going to go buy kind of that second-year guy you think is going to break out? Rashad White, 205 for Devin Achan, 205 for Tucker Kraft, 208 for Austin Eckler. So we're talking about running backs and dynasty running backs in the old free agent class. Go check out one of my dynasty trades videos. I really broke down the free agent class and looked at all the running backs there. Khalil Shakir, 212 for 201. Tearing up to get to that 201. I wanted to show you that price. 210, 310 for Quentin Johnson. So are you getting out of the Quentin Johnson train or not, right? That's kind of what that's looking at. All right, let's go to the third round here. We got Ladd McConkey, who's everybody's favorite sleeper right now, going to the Jaguars. Jatavian Sanders going to the Chargers is fun. With Harbaugh being there, if he finds himself on the Chargers, that's a fun pick. Now, he can't block worth shit, so I'm just going to be honest with you. He's got to fix that. Like, that's something that you know from his profile. Just being real. Like, and I don't know if he can't do it or if he hasn't wanted to do it. But I'm telling you right now, if he goes to Harbaugh's team, he's going to have to do it if he wants to get on the field. So that could kind of shape his career a little bit. That'd be a good landing spot for him. Shipley to the Ravens, Corum to the Niners, Marshawn Lloyd to the Cardinals is really fun because of Connor. If they're going to bring him back for the year or what they're going to do, if they're going to cut him or not, I think that affords him like an ability to kind of get on the field quickly. And then Jalen McMillan to the Patriots. I think that's a fun spot. I'm going to talk about Jalen here in a minute. Then in the third round, to kind of wrap up the third, Audric Estime. So thinking about going to the Panthers, fun spot for him. Jermaine Burton, Tampa Bay. Michael Pratt to the Steelers. Little sleepy pick there. If you don't know who Michael Pratt is, go check him out. I know Christian Williams really likes Michael Pratt, And going to the Steelers is a fun spot because, hell, we don't know who the quarterback for the Steelers is. Luke McCaffrey going to the Chiefs. Ray Davis going to the Bills. And then Jamari Thrash, Louisville wide receiver, going to the Browns. All kind of fun spots there for these guys. Now, as far as, Jalen McMillan, if you don't know who he is, Washington might have had the best receiving room in college football last year with Ndunze, McMillan, and Polk. There's a reason why they went to the college football national title game. Receiving grade 70.8, only 5 drops. Now, he's primarily a slot guy. The thing with Jalen is, he's a Fresno kid, so I live next to Fresno. I've watched him play in high school, actually. I was a big Jalen McMillan fan. I think that he fits the NFL systems. He does a lot of good things, right? His big year was last year. He was a little banged up this year, didn't play a ton. But ADOT is really good. I think his yards per route run looks really good this year. I think his ability to kind of make guys miss in the open field. I think that he can be that offensive weapon for guys, that slot guy, Jacoby Myers type, Christian Kirk type. And I love getting him in the third round right now, right? If you're drafting right now, Jalen McMillan would be a target of mine just because the value that he's going to gain. Now, if you look at where he caught the ball a lot this year, I mean, he was a very, very good intermediate route area. 0 to 10 yards is kind of where he thrived, but he was a big outside the numbers guy. Now, when you looked at last year's, obviously he was better because he was less injured. But McMillan is a piece. If he goes to a fun spot, he went to the Patriots here, but if they added Jaden Daniels, absolutely smash that. Look what he did with Neighbors and Brian Thomas and those guys this year. Now, let's run through the fourth round real quick. Johnny Wilson, big kid, he needs to play tight end, though. Jacob Cowing, going to Steelers in the fourth round. Cade Stover, Benson Knott from Kansas State. A lot of concerns about him playing running back, but if he goes tight end, I would love that spot for him with the Commanders in that offense with Drake May. Jace McClellan going to LA, fun. He's just going to ruin all Kyron Williams' hope. Javon Baker is another guy I really like. You should kind of put on your radar for the Chargers. Then to wrap out the rest, Malik Washington, Amani Bailey going to Cowboys, Michael Wiley, Ricky Pearsall, Brendan Rice, and Spencer Rattler to kind of round it all out for this mock. Now, when we're thinking of like the mock overall, I think if you're in drafts, so I have seen some people be in drafts right now, I wouldn't necessarily go after a lot of these back-end quarterbacks. I saw Bo Nix in a real rookie draft going 109. That takes some cojones because we don't even know if Bo Nix is going to get a first-round draft capital, right? Really, limit your exposure to like the landmines and don't take unnecessary risks in those drafts. But as always, DM me, ask me questions, understand where the tiers are at. You can find us also on our Patreon where we're going to have, we have the Riley Day and Saban tier. You dive into our Discord, get in our Discord. You can get in our Discord for $1. We have, all kinds of different stuff. Jay Stein's got his analytical profiles, his data, all of that. I have my rankings on there kind of as we go through trades and all my favorite buys and sells for Dynasty. So go check that out. I appreciate you guys tuning into this video, and we'll see you guys next time.